And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mandani, right? Okay, who's like a straight up communist. I mean, he is. He talks about, you know, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
You want him to win?
Yeah.
When Bill Maher decides to go after someone, it's never just a light jab. It's part comedy roast, part political wake-up call. And this time, his focus is on New York's far-left rising star, Zoran Mandani, or as Maher jokingly calls him, the best thing that's ever happened to Republicans. So here's the setup. On his show, Maher was talking about how politics has turned into a circus. One side obsessed with control, and the other tossing out ideas that sound straight from a socialist pamphlet. That's where Mandani steps in, running for New York mayor with a platform that's basically free everything. Free grocery stores, free public transport, you name it, it's free. Sounds nice on paper, right? Who wouldn't want that? But as Maher points out, that's not generosity, that's bad economics. He doesn't mince words either. He's not a socialist, he's a straight-up communist. And honestly, he's got a point. When your campaign starts to sound like a remix of the Communist Manifesto, it's not exactly a great look for someone running one of the world's most expensive cities. Maher even joked that Republicans don't need to invent a new villain. Mandani's doing that job for them. Every time he speaks, it's like fresh campaign material just drops into the GOP's lap.
Bad ideas, and again, this ugly streak.
Well, you look
ugly streak of anti-Semitism.
Who's the most popular politician on the left?
AOC? I don't know.
One of, but who's, you know, Bernie is
Bernie, yeah.
Bernie is, I mean, he's not a capitalist, you know?
No, he's not, and he's also not president.
But
never would be.
But neither is Mamdani.
No, no, but he will, trust me, he will be featured in the campaign commercials.
But they're going to feature people, they boogeyman everybody.
Yeah,
Nancy
but you don't have to boogeyman him. He does it to himself.
But Maher's not just talking about one politician in New York, he's making a bigger point. A warning to Democrats about what happens when they drift too far left. It's the same trap they've been falling into for years. Catchy slogans that blow up on social media but collapse in real life. That old promise, trust us, this time it'll work, is basically socialism's greatest hit. Every generation has a group of idealists who swear they can make it succeed if they just do it right this time. Spoiler alert, it never does. Maher even threw in one of his trademark jokes, saying every 20 years or so, we need a small, controlled experiment with socialism, just to remind ourselves why it keeps failing.
Every 20 years or so, we need a conspicuous, confined experiment with socialism so we can crack it up again. Socialist slogan used to be, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. The new socialist slogan is, trust us, this time it won't be a mess.
And he's not wrong. History proves it. Take Britain after World War II, full of optimism, full of government control, and within a few years, full of shortages. Coal and fish, two things the country literally had in abundance, somehow ran out. That's not equality. That's mismanagement with a friendly face. And that's Maher's main point. The dream of free for all always sounds amazing on paper, but someone always ends up paying for it. When success gets punished and mediocrity gets rewarded, productivity drops, innovation slows, bureaucracy explodes, and the whole system collapses under its own weight. You don't get equal prosperity and you get equal misery. Just not the kind anyone promised.
Yeah, when the post-war Labour government in Britain was about to get started, one of their leading lights was a socialist named Nurian Bevan. He said, what could go wrong? He said, we have a nation bedded on coal, surrounded by fish. It would take an organizational genius to have a shortage of either. In 3 years, they had a shortage of both. That's socialism.
Now, let's talk about the $65 million elephant in the room. Mandani proudly announced that he'd raise that much to fund gender-affirming care in New York. At the same time, he called the city a sanctuary for LGBTQIA+ workers and promised to create a new office of LGBTQIA+ affairs. No one's saying compassion and equality aren't important. They absolutely are. But when you're talking about massive taxpayer-funded social programs while the city's infrastructure is falling apart, homelessness is rising and basic services are struggling. People start questioning the priorities. That's exactly what Maher's worried about. He knows this kind of talk doesn't win elections. It hands them to Republicans on a silver platter.
One of the things that we've said, beyond saying that we're going to make a sanctuary city for LGBTQIA plus New Yorkers, beyond saying that we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA plus affairs, is also that we're going to provide $65 million in funding for gender-affirming care, the same amount of funding that the federal government threatened to pull out from local providers for that kind of work. And in this moment especially, if we want to fight the Trump administration, we have to do so by fully funding our own services, taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers corporations.
For every person cheering Mandani on, there's a moderate voter asking, wait, who's paying for all this? That's the same mistake Democrats keep making, giving conservatives an easy narrative that the left is out of touch with reality, morality, and the middle class. Maher isn't buying the whole democratic socialist rebrand for a second. He's seen this play out before and knows how it ends. And when Mandani was questioned about his controversial comments, like calling Israel an apartheid state, he dodged. He gave one of those polished, emotional, but empty political answers that sound nice yet say nothing. It's the classic political dance. Gavin Newsom does it with charm. Kamala Harris does it with circular logic, and AOC does it like she's auditioning for Broadway. Mandani's clearly taking notes, but here's the problem. That kind of smooth talking might win applause on talk shows, but it doesn't build trust. When a candidate can't give a straight answer on moral issues, voters notice. And Maher's right. That's not leadership. That's theater.
You're running for mayor of New York and not prime minister of Israel, but you've made inflammatory statements like calling Israel an apartheid state and questioning its right to exist as a Jewish state. Just this week, you were evasive with a reporter about condemning Hamas. Given New York has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel, why should voters who see this as a moral red line trust your clarity and judgment?
Well, I really appreciate this question and an opportunity to just clear up, I think, a number of misconceptions. First and foremost, you're right. I am running to be the mayor of the city, and this city will be the focus of my administration, ensuring that we make this a city everyone can afford and everyone knows that they belong to. And also, millions of New Yorkers, myself included, care deeply about what's happening.
And speaking of theater, Mandani's personal story has become a big part of his campaign's emotional appeal. He shared a touching story about his aunt, who supposedly stopped riding the subway after 9/11 because she felt unsafe wearing her hijab. It sounds heartfelt, except it wasn't entirely true. When journalists looked into it, the details didn't add up. And when the truth came out, it made him look less like a symbol of resilience and more like a politician using tragedy to gain sympathy.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Well, it wasn't so much his aunt as his dad's cousin, but, semantics. Douglas, is he ready to lead?
No, in absolutely no way is he ready to lead, and that was just another reminder of it. This is such a self-involved little narcissist with so little going for.
That's exactly what Maher and others are calling out. Not Mandani's background, but how he uses it for political gain. It's a classic move in modern politics. Use emotion to override logic, tell a moving story, make it personal, and suddenly criticism becomes insensitive. But here's the truth. Good storytelling isn't the same as good leadership. And if there's one thing New Yorkers know, it's how to spot the difference between real grit and performance. Mandani's speeches might thrill the idealists, but for everyone else, they're starting to sound like a badly written Netflix drama.
He even decides to turn the memory of 9/11 and the 3,000 Americans murdered that day into a story about his aunt and the subway. It's interesting, like so many things that this smarmy candidate does, he makes it about himself and it all turns out to be untrue anyway. It seems to the extent that he had any such aunt in question, she wasn't in New York at the time and in any case didn't wear the headscarf.
Here's the real irony. Mandani's rise isn't a victory for progressives. It's a warning for Democrats. Maher sees it clearly. If the left keeps backing far-left candidates who promise free everything with no real plan to pay for it, they're basically writing Republican campaign ads for free. Every time Mandani talks about redistributing wealth, Republicans don't even need to argue. They just sit back and say, "Please keep talking." And that's what makes Maher's commentary sting so much. He's not some conservative pundit. He's a lifelong liberal who's just tired of watching his own side self-destruct. He wants Democrats to win, but not by turning into the exact stereotype conservatives accuse them of being. Because let's be honest, if the left's new slogan is "Trust us," this time socialism won't be a mess. Then it's game over.
What I've found is that this vision of democratic socialism, it's one that often comes back to what Martin Luther King said decades ago. A vision of, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. Here in New York City, wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, 1 in 4 are in poverty. 500,000 kids go to sleep hungry every night. It's untenable to live with this kind of a divide. We have to actually have a politics that...
Which brings us to Maher's core point, human nature. Socialism doesn't fail because people are bad or greedy. It fails because people are human. They need motivation. They need a reason to work hard. You can't expect society to thrive when effort gets punished and laziness gets rewarded. That's not fairness. That's stagnation, dressed up as morality. Maher's warning is crystal clear. The more Democrats embrace figures like Mandani, the further they drift from the voters who actually decide elections. It's not the loud radicals on Twitter who determine the outcome. It's the moderates, the independents, the regular people who just want common sense, stability, and a government that doesn't treat them like an ATM. And let's not kid ourselves, Donald Trump is already milking this for all it's worth. He's called Mandani a communist at least 8 times in one speech. And while Trump exaggerates for sport, it works, because Mandani's own words hand him the ammunition. When you talk about city-owned grocery stores, you don't have to make stuff up. Trump just quotes you, and suddenly, what was meant to sound compassionate turns into pure gold for conservatives.
He has attacked you personally and publicly like this.
He's not a socialist. He's a communist, okay? This is not a socialist, man. This is a communist.
I don't like to see a communist become mayor, I will tell you that.
I call him my little communist. He's my little communist mayor. We should never be in a position where we're talking about a communist.
We're going to end up with a communist mayor. It's not even believable, my beautiful New York. I think if a communist takes over New York City, I think that's a gift to the Republican Party.
Last time you were on this program, you were unequivocal in saying you do not like capitalism. But Trump, just in those remarks there, I counted, called you a communist 8 times. Are you?
No, I'm a democratic socialist. I've said that time and again.
Ken Maher even joked that if Mandani wins, Republicans might as well celebrate. It'd be like hitting the jackpot. Think about it. New York, the city that gave the world Wall Street, being led by a man who openly dislikes capitalism. You couldn't script a more ironic headline, but here's the twist. Mandani might actually win. Because in a deep blue city like New York, loyalty often outweighs logic. People vote for the party label, not the policies. But once the campaign slogans fade and the reality checks start bouncing, what then? Running on emotion is easy. Governing is where truth hits hard. Maher's big question is the one every voter should ask. What happens when the feel-good speeches meet the hard math of running a city? When the promises don't add up, who pays the bill? History tells us it's never the politicians. It's the taxpayers. At the end of the day, Zoran Mandani's campaign is a mirror reflecting the left's internal conflict between compassion and competence, between emotion and economics, between wanting to fix inequality and actually knowing how. And Maher, with his trademark humor and blunt honesty, said what many on both sides are thinking. If Democrats don't step back from this ideological edge, they'll lose more than elections. They'll lose their identity. So yeah, when Bill Maher calls Mandani his little communist mayor, he's not just cracking a joke, he's sounding the alarm. Because if the world's financial capital ends up being led by a man who thinks capitalism is the enemy, it won't just be a political statement. It'll be one of history's greatest ironies. Maybe Maher's right. Every generation needs a reminder of what socialism looks like in practice. And maybe, just maybe, New York's about to become that reminder. Let's hope, for everyone's sake. It's a short one. So what do you think? Is Maher being too harsh? Or is he just the only one saying what others are afraid to admit? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the latest political chaos. Because let's face it, this show's just getting started.